Hello, welcome everybody for today's session
Hello.
on a company's fresh start scheme at 2020. It is a one-time or let's say a lifetime opportunity for the people whose clients, whose corporates have defaulted in some or the other can get the benefit of the scheme. Today we got our a speaker, a company secretary, Prajot Vaidya from Makran Joshi's office. He is a well-known speaker and managing task of the Makran Sir's office. To start the before starting the session, I request our member Forum Bhanushali to take the introduction of the speaker. Forum.
Thank you, Alpesh Bhai. To introduce our speaker for the day, C.S. Prajot Vaidya is a member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India and is also a law graduate. He has been working with Makrandam Joshi and Company, which is a leading company secretary firm in India, as a team leader and a mentor. MMJC has various specialized departments such as FEMA, mergers and acquisitions, secretarial audit, listed company compliances, trademark and copyrights, non-banking financial companies, secretarial work of unlisted public and private companies, research and development team. C.S. Prajot Vaidya specializes in handling secretarial work of large group companies, handling matters with respect to compounding of offences, restoration of companies, and various NCLT matters. He is also involved in handling operation and management cases. With this brief introduction, let's welcome the speaker for the day, C.S. Prajot Vaidya.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Alpesh, and thank you, Forum, for your kind words. Good morning, all members, and I hope everybody, along with your relatives, are safe and fine. Thank you, committee members, for giving me this opportunity to present and speak before all the learned members. Currently, we and our country is facing a lockdown situation. In fact, the entire world is facing a lockdown situation, and everybody, and all of us, and we are locked down in our houses. This lockdown started at the end of March 2020, and within 10-15 days maybe, there was a lot of discussion, and there is a lot of discussion regarding the economic slowdown and the financial stress and the overall shortage of the economic development and sort of. Although many of those things are true, and we may be facing a lot of this economic downtime in the coming months, whenever I sit and think about this lockdown situation, I feel we are living a Hollywood movie, because 4 or 5 months back, if somebody would have told me, or say all of us, that there will be a situation like such, and we may have to sit in our houses for maybe 2 months or maybe more than that, we would have not believed him. But currently we all are going through it, and it seems to be like a Hollywood movie, because in Hollywood movies there are stories and situations such which generally don't happen. Whatever movies we see, maybe Bollywood movies or Hollywood movies, I feel there are 2-3 things which are mostly common across all the movies. Not the entertainment, but 2-3 things, like every movie has a slow or a challenge, a slow or a sober start. Then just before the interval, there is some challenging and grave situation which has a lot of challenges in front of the lead actors. And then just before the picture is about to end, there are some situations which happen. There are some heroic acts which the hero does, and everybody is out of that grave and problematic situation, and suddenly everywhere there is a happy situation, and the movie ends with a happy note. Similarly, I feel we are now facing a lockdown situation, and we are now currently where the situation is getting more tougher for all of us as professional and for the country. And definitely there will be an end to this, and there will be a good start, and we all will prosper as a professional, and our country will prosper. But for prospering and for developing and for going ahead, we will probably now have to opt for new mechanisms. We will have to might be go for more innovative steps, find out more innovative products to assist and serve the industry, and then we probably will get out of this situation. I am sure we all as professional will bounce back, and we'll have some or the other opportunities in coming months of time. By God's grace and ministry's grace, there is a new scheme which has been recently introduced by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, by the name of Companies Fresh Start Scheme 2020. Now, in just before the outbreak of this COVID-19, there was a circular which granted relaxations to LLP in filing forms, and that circular said that the per day penalty, which was of rupees 100, will now be reduced to 10 rupees per day, subject to a maximum of rupees 5,000. And all the people, all business entities and companies, LLPs, owners, entrepreneurs were happy that their overdue returns will be filed by maximum payment of 5,000 rupees, 5,000 as fees. Then there was another circular which is known as measures taken to combat COVID-19, and in that the Ministry of Corporate Affairs completely waived the additional fees of 5,000 on LLPs, which was first in the first circular which they had mentioned. So now in the next circular, which was named as measures to combat COVID, the fees was reduced to only normal fees. Then next, there was a circular, there was a scheme which is called as the Companies Fresh Start Scheme 2020. And in this scheme, they have introduced a lot of forms and a lot of things which we will be probably discussing. My presentation in this webinar probably will be only on two important contexts. Number one will be about this scheme, information about this scheme, and what are the critical points as a professional we will have to keep in mind while discussing, while serving to our clients. And number two will be what opportunities do we have and what things we can do in this scheme. So my presentation will be, whatever I will speak today will be revolving around this. I will just share my screen. So the topic for today is Companies Fresh Start Scheme 2020, and it is a one-time opportunity for all of us, for all the professionals, for the companies, entrepreneurs, and everybody to file all their returns within this scheme. So what is CFSS 2020? CFSS 2020 is been introduced to incentivize compliances. Now, as a professional, you and me, everybody, all of us, we are meeting a lot of entrepreneurs, and in those entrepreneurs, we have different types of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs who have done a lot of things and they have reached to a certain heights. There are entrepreneurs who have just started their businesses, and they are in the process of getting hands on all their activities. There are some entrepreneurs who are medium sized and are doing pretty well. One thing in all of these entrepreneurs, one thing which is common in all of these entrepreneurs is that their zeal towards businesses and increasing their revenue figures. All the entrepreneurs are mostly focused, their zeal is only towards maximum of time towards bringing businesses and developing their company and growing the company. And due to this, at a lot of occasions, there is secondary treatment which is given to the compliances. And hence, in this scheme, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has given an opportunity for those entrepreneurs to do a fresh start by filing all their returns. The important aspect of this scheme is that there will be no prosecution. So those entrepreneurs who have been doing businesses by the baggage of those pending forms which they could not file just because of heavy penalties, maybe say lakh of rupees of penalties, and they could not file those returns, and they were with this baggage, they were working with a thought that whenever there is any show cause notice, we will see at that point of time. Those entrepreneurs can now take this opportunity of this scheme, file those forms, and start afresh with a clean slate. this COVID-19 pandemic situation is going to cost, as we discussed, is going to cost us a lot. There will be a lot of economic slowdown in the coming months of time. This is going to cause a terrible cost burden on all the businesses, and this scheme is introduced with an intention to reduce the compliance cost. So in this scheme, there will be no additional fees, and there is zero additional fees. One point which we have to take note of is that in this scheme, the only waiver is for the additional fees which you might have required to be paid while filing this form. So any prosecution and any penalty proceedings which are connected to the delayed filing is only covered in this scheme. For example, the due date of annual general meeting generally for all companies is 30th of September of every financial year. For example, if you don't convene AGM on time and your AGM is convened, say, on 30th of October 2019, that is 30 days delay than the regular of filing, the regular due date of filing, and you have not filed those annual filing e-forms with the registrar of companies. Now you can file those e-forms with no additional fees, only the normal fees which you will have to pay. That can be 300, 400, 500 or 600 depending upon the authorized capital of the company, and there is no additional fees which will be required to be paid. However, please note that the delay which is cost in convening the AGM is the delay. That non-compliance will be there, and that non-compliance will not be given. That non-compliance will not be considered in this scheme. So that non-compliance is there. Only the non-compliances of filing and the additional fees in connection to that filing is been waived off. I keep saying that, and everybody is saying that this is a one-time opportunity for all of us. Why so? Because a lot of all of you learned members would be practicing from many years, and you all must be remembering that in Companies Act 1956, the Companies Act 1956 was little sober because it was a 1956 enactment, and a lot of time has elapsed. Lot of time was elapsed since 1956, and there were very few forms which were required to be filed annually. Say 23 ACA for the balance sheet, ACA for the profit and loss account, compliance certificate if it was applicable, and the annual return and the auditor appointment related e-forms. There were not more than 4 e-forms which were required to be filed. But as soon as Companies Act 2013 was notified from 12th of September 2013, and majority sections were notified from 1st of April 2014, the game was changed and the entire compliance was changed. Lot of penalty provisions, humongous penalty provisions and prosecutions were involved in the section, and non-filing of those forms would trigger a grave consequences for the entrepreneurs and the company. So when Companies Act 2013 was introduced with the heavy penalties and prosecutions, there was a lot of discussion about government sending show cause notices and penalizing companies. But then we saw lakhs of companies were striked off by the registrar of companies due to non-carrying of business. Many directors were disqualified to act as a directors, and then suddenly everybody we have started realizing that the regulator has now become more active, and they are executing whatever they have mentioned in the act. So after Companies Act 1956, from the date of enactment of Companies Act 2013 till say January, February, we have seen a spur of e-forms which have which led a feeling in the professionals and in the entrepreneurs that the government is very serious about compliance, and it will ensure each and everything for all the companies and entrepreneurs to fall in line as far as compliance is concerned. And now recently they have introduced so many schemes for us, one of which is the company's Fresh Start scheme. In this Fresh Start scheme, in past decade, there were 2, 3 or maybe more than that amnesty schemes where such kind of amnesty schemes were introduced. But in none of the scheme there was a complete waiver of additional fees. So this is the first time in the history of Companies Act that there is complete waiver of additional fees and only normal filing fees will have to be paid. Now let us consider if any company has not filed annual filing forms, say 2 forms for the financial year 2017 maybe, and if it is filing in the if it is filing now, and if there is no scheme, that company would have to pay lakh of rupees for filing those 2 forms, and now that 2 forms could be filed in maybe less than 1200 bucks. So this is the difference. This is the incentive of the scheme, that there is no additional fees. In the LLP Act, which was introduced in 2008, after 2008, this is the first time in the history that there is any scheme which is introduced for LLP. Even if there would have been any scheme for from 2008 to 2012, I may not be recollecting, but definitely there is no scheme for LLP to complete their filings from 2013. So this is the first time where there is a scheme which is involved for LLPs also, and LLP forms are also covered. Number 3 important point in this scheme is that there are more than 70 e-forms which have been covered. So whatever schemes, amnesty schemes we have seen in the past, you all as professionals must have also seen, all those schemes included only AOC, only the basic annual filing forms, and there were no other e-forms which were included. But in this scheme, there are many e-forms other than the normal annual filing forms which have been included, and that is the incentive of this scheme. So 3 important points. This is the only scheme in last decade which has the zero additional fees. All those schemes had a minimum 25% of payment of additional fees. This scheme has no prosecution. You will get immunity from prosecution as far as filing of forms and delay is concerned. Next, the LLP forms are also covered, and there are more than other annual filing forms. Why this is one time? Why we are going through why this scheme is a one-time opportunity, and why we should grab this scheme immediately right now was the first point in the PPT. The next is now we discussed that we are going to we are already facing economic slowdown and financial crunch, and probably we may be facing this in coming months of time. Similarly, the government has to obey, and for the benefit of people, it may probably announce some packages to various state government, and since government will be also facing revenue deficit, it may explore collecting revenues as from the penalties which will be charged. So this is a scheme which is given by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, central government, to us, so that we will file all those forms. If we don't file, if we don't utilize this scheme, and we don't file forms, and after the scheme is over, maybe we all companies, and there will be flood of show cause notices which we might receive, and then at point of time the companies and entrepreneurs will have no face to show why we could not file those forms in the scheme. One more important point which we have to consider why this scheme is important for all of us is that there is a shift from physical process of penalizing to automatic processes. All of you all must have heard about adjudication of penalties. The Companies Act has introduced adjudication mechanism, and almost 40 to 45 occasions, non-compliance sections and e-forms are already covered. What will be adjudication mechanism? Now when we file a e-form and we are unable to file it within 30 days, and then we file it on the 31st day or the 32nd day, we have to automatically pay additional fees, which is calculated automatically online, and we pay. Similarly, there will be a e-mechanism which will be called as adjudication mechanism, and there will be a electronic format wherein automatically number of days delay and the penalty will be calculated, and you will have to pay that penalty online to file the e-form. So we will lose the chance of just paying additional fees and then waiting for prosecution and then seeing what will happen. and now we will have to probably pay those fees then and there, otherwise we will not be able to file the form. One more important step which Ministry of Corporate Affairs has taken in recent past years is the formation of Central Registration Center. Registration Center was formed by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So before the CRC was formed, all of us must be remembering all e-forms, maybe any e-form was processed by the regional ROCs. Only few forms for which central government approval was required were processed there. Other all e-forms were processed by the regional ROCs. And suddenly name approvals for whenever we want to incorporate a company, the name approval processes were shifted from the regional ROCs to the CRC, Central Registration Center. After some days, the name registration of LLP was shifted to Central Registration Center. Then the incorporations of private limited companies were shifted. Then the incorporation of LLP, conversion of companies into LLP, and recently they have shifted incorporation of Section 8 companies, that is companies not for profit, to Central Registration Center. What all this is showing is that we might see in the coming future that all the e-forms which we file will be processed by the central registration centers, and there will be no forms or very less forms which will be processed by the regional ROCs. After this, what will happen? The regional ROCs or officers' burden as far as those processing of forms is concerned might be reduced, and they might get into investigations, inspections, and adjudication mechanism. So why am I saying all this is to aware everybody why this scheme is important to us is this scheme is a one-time opportunity, and all these actions, whatever I have mentioned in this slide, are showing. I said I not
Sorry for the interruption. I'm just checking with the network. Just remain with us.
नहीं नेटवर्क तो है, मैं करता हूँ वापस। ऑप्शन नहीं आ रहा है। अच्छा ठीक। So what are general features of these forms? Of this scheme is that this scheme is available for all of us from 1st of April 2020 to 30th of September 2020. Now, this is the first time where the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has granted a moratorium period of 6 months to complete all the filings. So whatever forms are covered in this scheme, and for how many years they may be pending maybe for 8, 10, 15, 20 years. You may be able to file these forms within 6 months period, in this 6 months period with only normal fees. What is the manner of payment? The manner of payment of fees is as per the registration and offices rules. The normal fees will have to be paid, and there will be complete waiver of additional fees which the company would have to pay. So if we utilize this scheme and complete our filings, we will get immunity from to the extent of prosecution and proceedings for imposing penalty. This is the point which we have to keep in mind, that the immunity is only to the extent that you have delayed in filing the e-form, and the prosecution only till the time you have delayed the filing of e-forms. There is no immunity from non-compliance of any section if the company has done. So we will get immunity. Immunity we will be getting by way of immunity certificate, and that certificate we will get only when we file the immunity form, which we have to file after completing all our filings and within 6 months of the end of the scheme. That is from 1st October 2020 to 31st March 2021. Now, one thing which we have to keep in mind is that we will file all forms which are required to be filed in this scheme, and all those forms will be filed in time also. But we should not forget, we should not miss to file this immunity form, otherwise we will not get the immunity. Filing this form, immunity form, is very important and crucial, and a lot of occasions I've seen that people miss to file or forget to file this form. So we have to file this form also. Once we file this e-form, the ROC, the Registrar of Companies, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs will withdraw all prosecutions, penalty proceedings, adjudication proceedings, which might be raised against the company, and the company will be allowed to do a fresh start. So till now, what we have understood is how important this scheme is for all of us, because it is a one-time opportunity to file all pending forms, and this type of scheme na bhuto na bhavishyati. It was never in the past, and it seems very difficult that this type of scheme we will see in the future. So let us go next. Now, who can avail this scheme? Let us first see who cannot avail this scheme. So number one is the companies where action for final striking of company was initiated. So if the ROC has initiated striking of final notice against the company, this scheme is not available for those companies. This scheme is also not available for those companies which have suo motu filed application for striking off with the Registrar of Companies. Companies which have been amalgamated under a scheme of arrangement or compromise will not be available. These companies will not file, will not be able to take advantage of these schemes. Companies where application for dormant has been applied, and companies who are vanishing companies, they will also not be able to utilize this scheme. What are vanishing companies? Vanishing companies are companies who have not filed their returns for last 2 years, and they are not maintaining any registered office premises. Also, their directors are not traceable. So those companies can also not utilize this scheme. There are two types of schemes which are two types of forms which are not included in this scheme, which all the entrepreneurs were looking out for. The one is about increasing in authorized capital forms, and the other is charge related e-forms. These two type of forms are not considered in this scheme, probably because you are increasing authorized capital. As per the webinar, you have the company has issued shares and has had money, and it should have filed the form on time. Charge related e-forms are not covered because charge related e-forms, there are other laws also involved, and that is why those forms are not involved in this scheme. So which companies can avail benefit of these schemes? The companies who are defaulting companies. Now, who is a defaulting company? Any company who has not filed its returns which are included in this 76 e-forms, which have if you have not filed any of the e-form, you are a defaulting company, and then you can avail the benefit of this scheme. But when we avail the benefit of this scheme, we have to keep in mind that any if we have been already prosecuted, or if there would have been already prosecution and proceedings initiated, and we have appealed to it, then we have to probably withdraw the appeal before, then only we will be able to avail this scheme. So that seems to be a at very rare occasions. Many a times we have seen in last 7-8 years, ROC has not ROC may have initiated notices. So this type of companies will not be this type of companies will be available to take benefit of these schemes. So this is the type of companies. Now there's a critical question whether company which was strike off by ROC, by Register of Companies, can never avail the benefit of this scheme. Now in this scheme, in the previous slide, we have seen that companies which were strike off by ROC will not be able to utilize this scheme. But let us understand why these companies were strike off by ROC. These companies were strike off by ROC, so moto by ROC, because the Honorable ROC considered that the company is not carrying business from last 2 years. How did ROC get to know that you have not carried business from last 2 years? It's probably because of balance sheet filed, or because we have not filed the returns with ROC for last 2 years. And those types of companies were striked off by ROC by sending a notice. Now, if there is any company with our client, and the client wants that company which is striked off, why will we want that company? Maybe some asset there in the company, because of some investments which might be there in the company, because of some intellectual property rights maybe available in the company, or there must be some which is there in the company, and for these reasons businessmen, the entrepreneurs might want the company. So if the company is striked off and the client wants his company back, what we can do is the company can file an application with the Honorable National Company Law Tribunal and get the company restored and get the status of company from strike off to active. Once the company is made active by the upon order of NCLT by the ROC, then the company can avail this scheme. Now, for getting the company restored and completing the filings, we have 6 months of time. We have to complete the filings, and before that restoration in all this 6 months of time. So those companies which were striked off by the ROC but wants the company now can avail this scheme, but they have to first restore the company. Now, whenever we apply for restoration of company with the NCLT, NCLT will charge some penalty per year. That penalty may vary. That penalty is still there, and the company and the entrepreneur will still have to pay that penalty. There is no waiver from that penalty, but obviously the additional fees which he would pay he would pay for filing those pending returns will now be waived off, and a lot of money will be saved. So companies which were striked off and companies which want to continue can avail this scheme only if they are restored by NCLT process. Number 2 is the filing of all pending e-forms will restore the directorship of directors who were disqualified. Now, as I said in the earlier slide only, that this scheme is been introduced only to waive additional fees and prosecution related proceedings to the extent there is delay in filing e-forms. If you have done any non-compliance of the section which is not connected to e-filing, then there is no immunity. So even if your directors are disqualified and you complete the filings, your directorship will not be restored, and the director will continue to be disqualified till the time for the period of 5 years from whenever the disqualification period must have commenced. Now, third question: what if all the directors of the company are disqualified? Can they avail the benefit of this scheme and file their overdue returns? Now, if all directors of the company are disqualified, probably there is no director on the board. So when a director is disqualified, when the company does not file annual return, and annual return and balance sheet for 3 years, and pursuant to which all the directors get disqualified. Once the director is disqualified under section 164, the director automatically vacates his position as a director under section 167. So technically, as per law, there is no director on the board of the company if all the directors are disqualified. Now, if all the directors are disqualified, how can this company file the pending forms? Who will authorize the company, and who is director will digitally sign the e-form? These are the questions. But if there is any company where all directors are disqualified, but the status of company is active, the directors, the promoters of the company, as per section 167, can file a physical application with the regional registrar of companies and appoint directors through a back-end process. The instructions with respect to these back-end processes are being given to regional ROCs, and regional ROCs will appoint directors through back-end process. Once directors are appointed through back-end process, we will be able to complete the pending filings, which whatever filings are pending. So yes, companies where all directors are disqualified can also complete the filings if they appoint directors through back-end process. The coverage of forms. What all forms are covered? Now, as I said in the earlier, in the opening remarks, that this is the scheme where there are other than annual e-forms which are being included. There are almost 76 e-forms which are covered in this scheme, out of which 10 e-forms are with respect to Companies Act 1956. There are 54 e-forms which are as per Companies Act 2013, and there are almost 12 e-forms which are of LLP. So as a professional, we have a lot of scope, and there are a lot of forms which we can find out if they are pending, and we can serve the industry by filing those pending e-forms. This is the first time maybe in the history, to my memory, that there is any amnesty scheme where there are other e-forms also which are included. Go through a gist. Now, I am going to present a gist of annual e-forms which were required to be filed under 1956 Act, and now which are required to be filed under 2013 Act. Why this difference is just to create awareness that there are not only 4 or 5 e-forms like balance sheet, like annual return and those stuff, but there are some other e-forms also which have been recently introduced in last couple of years, and those also have severe penalties associated to it. So when we all were practicing under Companies Act 1956, there were 3-4 forms we all used to file. Those were Form 23 AC ACA for balance sheet and profit and loss account. There was e-form 20B for annual return, and there was Form 21A for companies where there was no share capital, companies where there was no share, Section 8 companies. Then there is e-form 66 for compliance certificate for those companies whose paid up capital was 10 lakhs and above. And there was e-form 23B, which was to be filed by auditor, intimating his appointment as auditor to the ROC. So these were the E4 e-forms, out of which e-form 66 was also applicable to only those companies where compliance certificate was required. Otherwise, only 3 e-forms were required to be filed. Of course, there were more e-forms which were to be filed on the basis of corporate events which would have occurred in the company. But as a part of annual compliances, there were only these 3-4 forms which were required to be filed by a private limited or a private limited company, say for example. Now, as per Companies Act 2013, we all are aware that there is an e-form AOC4 which has to be filed. There is, sorry, by mistake, I have written e-form 20B. It is e-form MGT7 which has to be filed. There is e-form 81 which is appointment of director. These 3 forms are these 3 forms we had in the Companies Act 1956 also. Then there was a new e-form which was covered, which was introduced, which was active company tagging, identities and verification. Active form which we called as which required photographs of directors with the sign, with the nameplate of the company. Those e-forms were required to be filed, and if company has not filed this return on time, the company would have to pay 10,000 rupees as additional fees, and then the company was able to file this e-form. Unless you file this e-form, there are grave consequences. You cannot increase your authorized capital, or you cannot file the form. You cannot file allotment related form. You cannot file appointment of directors related form. So this e-form was introduced, and those companies who have not filed this e-form, if they would have filed this not in this delayed filing, they would have to pay 10,000. And now in this scheme, there is only normal fees and there is no additional fees. Similarly, DPT3 was introduced, and in last year there were 4 DPT3 forms which were required to be filed. DR3 KYC or the web verification, which is also required to be done every year. So it seems to be a very small verification, but if you don't file it on time, it has additional fee of rupees 5,000. Now in this scheme, that 5,000 is also waived, and only normal fees will be required to be paid. Then there was a new form which was introduced, which is called as MSME form, and that form required to be filed half yearly henceforward. And in last year also we had to file 2 e-forms due to MSME, and this has to be considered. Why this comparison? Just to bring a small awareness that in this scheme we have to see whether other e-forms are also filed, not only the annual filing forms of AOC for MGD7 and auditor related appointment, but other e-forms also which were recently introduced, because we have this one-time opportunity to file the e-forms. Now MSME form, there is a lot of discussion whether MSME form is included in this scheme or not. No additional fees. You can file it at any point of time and it is free of cost. But it is still, as per my understanding, if we in this scheme it is not, this form is not included, and we should try to file this form in time. Now this was the comparison of 1956 and 2013 Act. Now how can we as a professional get involved in this scheme and serve the industry? Now as a professional, maybe practicing chartered accountants, and we as a practicing company secretaries, we see different types of companies who are medium sized, companies who are very big companies, who are very small companies. For all of us as a professional, individually this medium large may change for all of us, but I am sure everybody has some medium and large companies and clients, maybe many of medium and companies, and those companies might be you must be looking after their compliances from say last 1 year or 2 years. Now here is an opportunity for us to check whether the company has filed all the pending all the forms, right, from 1st of April 2014, maybe from 12th September 2013 to 31st March 2020. In these 5 years, we probably can do a health check of all the e-forms which were required to be filed and whether those forms have been filed or not. So here is one opportunity for us that we can get involved in doing a health check of companies. Another is a vanilla type of work where we are aware of companies and LLPs who have not filed returns, and we can file those pending returns. We can help those companies and LLPs in filing those returns. This is very vanilla and simple for all of us. Now, in last couple of years, you all must be involved, or you all must have been come in contact with some companies who had faced due diligence. Maybe for some bank loans, maybe for some funding, M&A, mergers and acquisitions, maybe for some sale, or maybe for some other corporate restructuring, and just because there were pointed out by the auditor, and those non-compliances were not rectifiable, and if they were rectifiable, a lot of penalty would be required to be paid. Now this type of companies who had cancelled all those corporate event restructuring related work just because of those heavy penalties have a lifetime opportunity of completing those and even getting prosecution, even getting immunity from prosecution. So if you are at the buyer side or if you are at the seller side, this becomes a very positive point for you, that you take this, we do this event, we take immunity, and the buyer is relieved from the from prosecution, and he can start afresh. So this type of companies we can find out if anybody of you all have come under some in this type of companies, and this type of companies we can serve. Another companies, as I said, those companies which were strike off by ROC, and client want to retain that company. Why does client want to retain? Maybe as discussed, maybe some business, maybe some property, maybe some investments, maybe he has some trademark, maybe there is some a feeling associated with the company, and that is why he wants to maintain that company. Here we will only pay the NCLT penalty, and additional fees which we had to pay to ROC will be waived off. So this is the fourth opportunity which we can find out. Next, we can now let us give a deep thought for those companies which were striked off by the ROC. Now, companies which were striked off by ROC, in those companies there are two. Let us bifurcate two categories of people. One category of people is the category which we just discussed, that they want that company back and they want to maintain that company. They were not maintaining that company, or they were not going for restoration because of additional fees which they would have to pay. So this is one type of company, one type of client. Another type of clients are those clients which don't want the company. They are happy that the company is striked off. But whenever the company has received a striking of notice that your company has been striked off, there was a small line below the notice which said that that the directors will be personally liable for the non-compliances. And if we have some directors who want to get rid of those non-compliances and get rid of that baggage of non-compliances, directors can restore the company, file all the e-forms whichever are pending, get rid of that baggage of non-compliances which is there on the head, and then maybe maintain the company, or maybe then convert it into a LLP, or maybe then strike off the company. So here is an opportunity for those clients also who doesn't want to he doesn't want to have that baggage of compliances on their head. So these are the brief category of work or assignments or things which we can serve to the country in this COVID pandemic situation. Now, these e-forms can be filed. These all are e-forms, and it can be filed from everybody's house. And this is an opportunity for us, since we all are working from home. We can file these e-forms from home. I am sure, and I agree that there will be some technical problems as far as the MCA, the version, the DSC is concerned. But then we have an opportunity to serve industry in all these heads. So we can think over on all these heads and what we can do. Now, how to find out what to see in these companies. Now, when Company Act 2013 was introduced and it was effected from 12th of September, many sections which were only applicable to public companies in Companies Act 1956 were made applicable to private companies also. And there were a lot of e-forms which were required to be filed at the time when the Companies Act was notified. Post which, in 2015 June, they gave relaxation to private companies. 5th June dated notification, and they exempted some companies from filing those returns. So since they were exempted with effect from 5th June 2015, they still had to file forms for the period of 1st April 2014 till 5th June 2015. So what general lapses I have seen as whenever we do secretarial, or we do an audit and health checkup of companies. So when this Companies Act was introduced, e-form MGT 14 was required to be filed for various purposes, even by a private company and even by a small company. Those forms were for disclosure of interest, giving authority to borrow, invest, give loans. MGT 14 was required to be filed for submitting board resolution, which was required to adopt, which was passed for adoption of accounts and adoption of board. These are the types of e-forms which were required to be filed by every type of company from 1st April 2014 to 5th of June 2015. Now, many of the companies have not filed these e-forms, and now we can help in filing these e-forms because we will not have to pay any additional fees on this. Currently, even if you are handling a public companies, adoption of account and board report is now also required to be filed by public companies. And if any of your client, which is a public company, has not filed, we can file this form in this scheme. Uh, as I said, when this Companies Act 2013 was notified, we all are learned members, and we are aware that there were few sections which were applicable only to public companies and were not applicable to private companies, like the section 180, which is for borrowings of borrowings till above the limit of paid up capital and reserves, and section 186, which speaks about investment up to 60%, 100% criteria. So if our client has borrowed money above the paid up capital and free reserves post 12th of September, and he has invested above 1600% post 12th of September, then the company was required to take approval of shareholders by passing a special resolution. Now we have to see whether our client has borrowed, invested money, and it has increased, and where they above the criteria. If not, if yes, then special resolution was required to be passed and filed with the registrar of companies. Similarly, whenever there was borrowing, so whenever there was board resolution passed for borrowing, whenever there was a board resolution passed for investment, whenever there was board resolution passed for giving loans, the companies were required to file MGT 14 form. Now, in those companies which have habit of borrowing every now and then, so they keep on sharing resolution with banks for borrowings. A board resolution is shared with the bank. That resolution was required to be filed with the ROC. Many companies have habit of creating fixed deposits with banks. Whenever you deposit, your bank must have asked for a board resolution of investment, and that investment resolution was required to be filed. Now, whatever I said for the first line was only till 5th of June 2015. If after that, if you have borrowed, then there was no board resolution filing required under section 179. Similarly, section 180 and 186 special resolution was required for private companies, and from 5th June, 180, that is for borrowing, is exempted. 186 section for investment is still applicable. So we have to check those limits also. So why am I including all this? Because we should not consider only filing annual filing forms when we are filing these forms. Since we have opportunity to file all the pending forms, we can do a health checkup, find out whatever forms are pending, and we can utilize this scheme to file those forms. Next, crucial points which I have seen many companies who have missed filing: MGT 14 form for appointment of managing director, or whenever there is change in terms of appointment of managing director and there is no MGT 14 which was required to be filed. 117 says that you have to the terms of managing director. MGT 14 was required to be filed. Next, MGT 14 was also required to be filed for a person who was appointed as managing director and who has completed 70 years of age. Now, what was required is a special resolution was required to be passed, and that special resolution was required to be filed in e-form MGT 14. These are the e-forms which are generally not filed, and generally these are the lapses which I have seen. E-form MGT 14 for issue of shares. So whenever from 1st April 2014 till 5th of June 2015, till the exemption which was granted to private companies, a form for issue of shares, board resolution which was passed for issue of shares was required to be filed. That is also we have to check whether that form is filed or not. Next, next is a critical question whether filing of e-form MGT 7 is possible in this scheme without filing a condonation application. Now, as I said, whatever forms are pending, you can file it with only paying normal fees, and there is no additional fees. Similarly, it is also applicable to MGT 14 form, and there is no additional fees. But whenever there is any MGT form which is pending for which is due for more than 300 days, you have to apply with the central government for condoning the delay. That application is made in form CG1. Now, when this scheme was introduced, we had a thought. I was feeling that process of applying to central government to condone this delay will be waived. But that doesn't seems to be waived till today. It might be they may consider it in future, but till today there is no waiver in condonation application. We still have to file the condonation application with the central government, and once that application is condoned, we will be able to file this MGT form without additional fees. So this is the answer to this critical question. Now, what are the general lapses which I have seen while performing a small health checkup or in the companies is the DPT4 statement regarding deposits of existing existing on the commencement of the act. So all of us must be remembering that there was a lot of discussion when the Companies Act 2013 was notified with respect to deposits accepted before Companies Act 2013 was notified, and their repayment which was to be done before 1st April 2014, and suddenly on the last date of repayment there was a circular which exempted this deposit. So that all story is there, but that whatever deposits were there on the commencement were required to be filed, and we can check whether our companies have filed this return or not. So now there may be clients of yours whom you must be serving from last 7-8 years, and you must be aware of their compliance status. But for those companies who have become your clients recently, maybe in 2-3 years or maybe less than that, this is an opportunity where we can do a health checkup and find out whether any e-form filing is pending. Next, e-form DIR 12, appointment of director. So whenever a director is appointed as additional director, his term is only up to the annual general meeting. A lot of occasions I have seen that the DIR 12 form for appointment of director whose appointment is confirmed in AGM, in our regular language we call it as regularization, that form is not filed. So in lot of signatories you could see people are still being seen as additional directors, although they have been appointed as director in the annual general meeting. So those DIR 12 forms can be filed on time. From 1st October 2018, to my mind, there was a requirement of filing declaration for commencement of business. Now, a lot of us are involved in incorporation process of companies, and we must have been a part of incorporation processes. But I have seen a lot of companies and clients have missed to file this commencement declaration form. Now why they have missed, because there was a lot of confusion in the company that when it was notified it was mandatory, then they waived it, then they again brought it, so there was some confusion. So please remember, from 1st October 2018, this form for declaration of commencement of business is applicable across to all, even to private companies also. This form is required to be filed, and these forms are also covered under the scheme. So if not filed, we can file it on now in this scheme. Lot of occasions wherever there are group companies involved, many companies involved, we have seen that the registered office is shared by all the companies, and the registered office is owned by only one entity, and it has been shared by everybody. And or due to some reasons best known to the entrepreneurs, there are some companies whose registered offices are kept separate, and there are some companies whose registered offices are kept separate. I don't know, maybe for some reasons. So many a times registered offices are kept separate, but the books of accounts and all accounting are maintained at one single office. In this situation, we can file this AOC 5 form and submit this form to ROC, intimating our place of maintaining books of accounts. Why this form is relevant? Because as I said earlier, the regional ROCs might be a little free in coming time, and there will be a lot of inspection and investigations and adjudication proceedings which might we see in the future. One more important form which is generally missed to file is when a company is incorporated as a wholly owned subsidiary and one nominee shareholder is kept for the sake of compliance, so that there are minimum 2 members. Whenever the company is incorporated, the beneficial owner and the registered owner both have to give a declaration to the company in form MGT4 and MGT5. These are physical forms, and that 4 and 5 is required to be filed in MGT6 e-form with the registrar of companies. I have seen at many occasions this form has not been filed at the time of incorporation. Moreover, whenever a company is changed, whenever a company becomes a subsidiary, a wholly owned subsidiary company, after certain period of time since its incorporation. At that time also this form has been missed to file. That is where we can check whether there was any MGT6 e-form which was required to be filed or not. Now, since now we have lot of matter, a lot of pointers to discuss, and a lot of things within us, lot of checkpoints for with us to see what all compliances are required to be done, and what all things we can find out. What we can do is we can, of course, everybody, all of us will be having list of companies and LLPs which are your clients and which to whom we are providing services, you are providing services. Now this list can be finalized and we can give a summarized with by going through the master data. What we can do is we can see on the website within 3-4 minutes you can find out whether the company has filed annual filing forms. We can see it in the master data, whether the company has filed active compliance form, because the status we can see whether it is active compliant or not. We can see whether the directors on the board of the company have filed their KYC just by checking the status of their deal. So these are the 3 important checkpoints which we can check within 2-3 minutes of going to the MCA website. We can see whether any form filing is pending. Then what we can do is we can, whatever companies and LLPs we are handling, we can see the other directorship of those directors and other and partnership wherever they are partner in LLPs. We can see their other companies and LLPs which may be not with us, and we can see whether filing is completed or not. This can be one of the opportunity for us to complete the filing. Next, we can see whether the company, whether LLP, whether your client is a partner or designated partner, and status of filing their form. So this is a cursory status what we can get to know by only viewing the MCA website on the front of master data. Now what we can do is there is a facility of checking annual filing status which everybody of all must be aware. We can check each and every year's from the date of incorporation till today, and we can check whether all e-forms are covered in the annual filing status. A lot of occasions there is 1 or 2 forms which have been missed, and we miss it, and then there is nobody who is taking a follow-up for it. So we can see by going through the VPD, by going through the check annual filing status, whether all years annual filing is completed or not, whether auditor's appointment as per the auditor's appointment is filed or not. One more important thing which I have experienced is, at a lot of occasions we have filed whenever we incorporate a LLP, there is form 3 when we file the agreement copy with the registrar of companies. Now whenever we file this form 3 copy with the registrar of companies, then there was at a lot of occasions the status of the form was not checked. Form was set for submission for certain, and the form was, then there was nobody to look after it, and the status of the form, then the form was rejected and nobody is aware of. What we can do is whatever LLPs we have, we can specifically ask for form 3 approval status, because this form 3 may or may not be available on the view public document. So finding out the status will be difficult unless you have incorporated the LLP. So this is one opportunity where we can see whether all form 3 whichever were filed as per the client's memory and your memory have been approved or not. There is one last point which is not, I think, is not visible. At a lot of occasions, I have seen that there is some understanding between the partners. There is a first they do some understanding, they enter into an LLP agreement. That LLP agreement is filed. Then there is some changes in their terms, which is generally orally discussed, and there is no record of it. So what we can do is we can take up an assignment of checking whether the terms of agreement which were then entered and during the course of period are correct, are whatever the agreement is saying is whatever their terms are being depicted in the agreement. If not, then we have scope of getting involved in this, drafting this agreement maybe, and filing it. One more important point which I have seen as far as LLP is concerned, whenever an LLP is incorporated, if it is incorporated before September of September month of a year, maybe in August, uh, generally we construe that the first return will be filed subsequent to the next year of the closure. So, for example, if the LLP is formed on 31st of August 2018, then the first filing will come in March 2020 and it will not come in March 19. Because of the definition which is there in the LLP Act, a lot of occasions we see that incorporation first year is generally misconstrued and the first filing form is lapsed. So we can check whether first year's filing is done. Like we can check for companies whether their status is complied, we can check for LLPs also. If you log into MCA website, log in and then check other directorship, and there is a PDF file which gets open giving you a brief summary of where your client is a director partner. There you can see at the end of the right hand side of the corner that it will show the defaulting status. If there is any defaulting status, that means that company LLP has not filed a form. So this is the way we can check whether there is any filing pending or not. So these are the areas where we can find out whether is there any scope for us to complete and assist the industry. I hope everybody, I could make some sense to all the participants of this webinar. And before concluding this and moving forward, I want to give these are my two thoughts, which is the regulator is becoming more vigilant these days. And nowadays, risking compliances should not be our option. And in coming days, we are seeing a lot of IT intellectual people and mechanisms to find out non-compliances, to send notices, and to do adjudication processes online and collect and punish those companies. So regulator is becoming more vigilant, and that is why when we are going with this scheme, when we are utilizing this scheme, unless we are very sure of we are very sure of whatever filing is pending, we can do a health check and find out whatever filings are pending. Then more and more forms and sections might get covered under my adjudication mechanism. As I said earlier, penalties is one of the can be an important source of revenue to the government, and the government may very soon explore this area of collecting revenues because of this pandemic situation and the deficit of revenue, plus this scheme which has been given to us, everything which is given to us, and still if we don't file, the ministry might get into all this section, might get and send notices. Now there is an adjudication mechanism. There is simple formula. You have to file forms, automatically penalty will be calculated, and you have to pay for. Without paying, you will not be able to file that form. This is no longer only a thought. This is actually happening, and this has started in many regional offices. I think it must be started in all the register of company offices. And currently, there are 40 to 45 events forms which have already been included. That's it. I hope what I could add some value by giving this. Over to you.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, Prajot bhai. It was an excellent presentations, and you have definitely covered all the things, and you have revised our Companies Act itself. The forms which were missed out by us during audit and every time, you're very well explained us also, and at this time we can plan for our audit work also, and even inform our clients for the compliances. To give the formal vote of thanks, I request Himanshu bhai to give a vote of thanks to Prajot bhai, and thereafter we'll take up the question answer sessions.
Thank you, Alpesh. Friends, the illiterate of the 20th century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. This applies to our profession also. We need to learn, unlearn, and relearn many judgment, provision, act, law. And in times like this, if not possible in the conference room, then via webinar. Friends, you all agree with me, CS Prajot Vaidya in his simple and lucid language cover his presentation. The unique part of his presentation was he has covered many like what we have forgotten forms filing or what are the common mistake we do. This will help us as a CA. Normally, company secretary are very particular about all this filing, but as a CA, normally many times we miss those filing. This will help us. His presentation we will share that will help us in future also. We are thankful to him for accepting our invitation and sharing rich knowledge on the subject. I, on behalf of Mulund CA Group and on behalf of all the participants present, propose hearty vote of thanks, and we are thankful to each and every participant also. Thank you. Back to Alpesh.
Thank you, Himanshu bhai. Thank you, Himanshu bhai. Prajot bhai, the question answers are been shared with you. You can share it on the screen and answer the queries.
1 minute.
Hello, Prajot bhai, are you with us?
Yes. Yes, I'm there.
Yes. The queries are like this.
1 minute. 1 minute. So the first query is whether the CFSS scheme is applicable for filing Form 3 LLP for which due date is May 2020. Of course, the scheme is available for this form also. There is a moratorium period of 6 months which is granted for filing these forms, and we can very well file this form till 30th of September 2020. Next question is, if company is from Pranali, if company is strike off by ROC and all directors disqualified, then how to remove disqualification of director? Pranali, I have mentioned this earlier also, that this scheme is only for providing relaxation as far as penalty with penalty and prosecution with respect to delayed filing is concerned, and there is no immunity or no waiver or no relaxation no to disqualified directors or to any other or from any other end. So we will not be able to retain the directorship. The director will be continue to disqualify. However, we will be able to file the forms. 1 minute. Actually, I'm unable to see the further questions.
The LLP status.
1 minute. 1 minute. So, Pranali, I was coming to your point. So there is no mechanism of removing disqualification of director available till today. As of today, there we might expect something in future, but very rare. So as of today, there is no mechanism. The director who is disqualified for 5 years will have to wait for the period of 5 years for getting his disqualification removed. Next question is, LLP status on site is defunct. LLP was formed in 2010. Since then, no ROC compliance done. Designated partners are also directors of another two private limited company. Company is my client. LLP was not. My question is, due to defunct status of LLP, any issue in present directorship, that is in future written, can be blocked. Since there were conflict among partners, no one is coming to resolve the issue. So should we wait till ROC strike off LLP? Any precaution action to take, as once before 2 years, one notice has come for LLP to strike off, but we have not replied at all. So first question is whether due to defunct status of LLP, will there be any issue in the present directorship? As of today, there will be no issue for him to act as a director of private limited company, because there is no law which will like if you don't file annual filing forms of a private limited company for 3 years, then you become disqualified to act as a director. But there is no provisions in the LLP Act. So similarly, if you are partner of a LLP and has not filed forms, there will be no problem for future. There will be no problem in compliances of private limited company. Also, the DIN will not be blocked because there is no provision of disqualification in LLP. However, KYC will be required to be filed, and if KYC is filed, there will be no issue in doing the compliances. But next question is, there were conflict among partners and no one is coming to resolve the issue. So should we wait till ROC strike off the LLP? Now, Jayesh bhai, we will probably see if we wait for ROC to strike off this LLP. ROC may strike off this LLP, but we will have the baggage of non-compliance of whatever filing we have not done. Of course, we have our story that there is some dispute and nobody is cooperating, and that is why we were unable to file the forms. But my suggestion would be to find out some way, discuss amicably, and file those forms. Otherwise, LLP may be striked off, but the non-compliances will remain, and ROC will reserve a right to send you notice at any point of time. Probably you can also go through the LLP agreement if it is signed and see whether there are any provisions in the LLP agreement which can be of little help to you, like removing of partner, adding new partner, and sort of. This you can explore. So you have received a notice 2 years back, and I am sure that notice must have a statement that the director will be penalized, and that is why I am saying that we should resolve and try to file the forms as soon as possible. Next question is whether without DSC this form could be filed. There is no, actually I have not got the question, but there is no form which can be filed without DSC, and hence DSC is required for each and every form. Is condonation of delay exempted from MGT 14 during CFS scheme 300 days limit? No, unfortunately no. As of today, condonation process is still there, and if there is any form which we have not filed and 3 days have elapsed, we will have to still go and file a condonation application. But since this scheme has come and the entire ministry's thought process from this context seems that they want to facilitate business entrepreneurs to file their all forms and complete filing. I feel the processing of form CG1 will be little faster, and we will be able to file this form. But yes, condonation process is still there, and we will have to still file the condonation application. The due date for filing form 11, I think I have covered this. Can we get a form number or details which are covered, those 76 forms? Definitely. I will share this PPT and the list of forms as soon as we end this session, and I hope this PPT, as was informed to me, will be shared. Along with that PPT, that list can also be shared.
Yes, sir. Once your PPT is shared with us, the PPT as well as the recording, both will be shared with all the participants.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Prayesh bhai, for sharing your valuable time and knowledge to us. Thanks, participants, for quiet listening. Thank you, everyone. Please close the meeting.